This is solving equations 2, part 2, and this is the second example. In this question we are given the information on screen. We have a right-angled triangle. We are told that the long side is represented by n plus 3. Our first short side is represented by n plus 2, and the other short side, we know its length, it's 3. The question asks us to find out the lengths of the unknown sides. That's the two sides containing n. In order to find out the lengths of these sides, we must first know n. In order to figure out n, what we need to do is form an equation. If we can form an equation, we can then solve for n and simply substitute back in to find out our answers. But how do we form an equation? Well, what we need to do is look at the information given. We have a right-angled triangle and we're trying to find the lengths of some unknown sides. If you think back in your maths course, the first thing that should spring to mind is Pythagoras. When we think of Pythagoras and the questions we attempted before, the first thing you should do after drawing your diagram is label our sides. Now if we stick to what we did before, the long side, we always use the label A, and the two short sides, doesn't matter which ones, which, we'll call this one B and this one C. If we remember back, Pythagoras formula is a squared equals b squared plus c squared. We know that a is represented by n plus 3, so we can write that n plus 3 squared equals b squared. B is 3, so that's 3 squared plus n plus 2 squared. So now we have our equation containing n. What we need to do next is remove the brackets and then solve for n. So first of all, looking at this side, we have n plus 3 all squared. Something squared means that you're going to multiply it by itself. So n plus 3 all squared is simply n plus 3 times n plus 3. On the right hand side we have 3 squared first of all, which means 3 times 3, which is 9. We then have n plus 2 squared, which means n plus 2 multiplied by itself. So what we have is n plus 3 multiplied by itself. So thinking back, what we have is everything in bracket 1 times everything in bracket 2. First thing here is n, so we're going to do n times bracket 2. The second thing in the first bracket is 3, so now we need to do 3 times bracket 2. We still have our 9 at the start on the right hand side, and then we have another 2 brackets multiplying. So first thing in here is n, so we have n times bracket 2, and then we have 2 times bracket 2. What we can do now is start to multiply out our brackets. So n times n is n squared. N times 3 is 3n. Then we have 3 times n, which is 3n. And 3 times 3, which is 9. On our right hand side, we still have our 9 at the beginning. Then we have n times n, which is n squared. N times 2, which is 2n. And then we have 2 times n, which is 2n. And 2 times 2, which is 4. What we can do now is start to simplify each side where we can, and if there's anything that can be cancelled, we can do that at this point also. Now on the left hand side, the first thing you'll notice is n squared. If you look at the right hand side, we have something which is exactly the same, another n squared. If you think back to change side, change sign, if we were to move this n squared onto the other side, it would become minus n squared. That would leave us with n squared minus n squared on the left hand side, which gives us nothing. So instead of having to move, what we can do is just cancel out both these things at this point. If you notice, we have something similar with the number 9. We have 9 here and 9 on the right hand side, which can be cancelled at this point also. That leaves us on the left hand side with 3n plus 3n, which is 6n. And on the right hand side we have 2n plus 2n, which is 4n. And finally we have our plus 4 on at the end. What we want to do next is put our letters on the left and numbers on the right. So looking along the line, the thing that needs to move is a 4n. It's the only thing that has to move. So first of all, putting down the things that are staying where they are, we have 6n on the left hand side and we have 4 on the right hand side. 4n is going to move. That means plus 4n at the moment. If we change side, it becomes minus 4n. So we have 6n minus 4n, which is 2n. 2n equals 4. If 2n equals 4, then that means that n equals 2. Is that our final answer? Well, if you think back to the question asks us to find out the lengths of the unknown sides. So first of all, the long side was n plus 3. We now know that n is equal to 2, so the long side is 2 plus 3. 2 plus 3 is equal to 5. So the long side is 5. Our other unknown side was this short one, which was represented by n plus 2. We now know that n is equal to 2, so that's 2 plus 2, and 2 plus 2 is 4. So the length of this unknown short side is 4. And that's our final answers.